You started to kind of answer my question a little bit earlier. But my question is, what is the difference between channeling and coming into alignment? So, for instance...
No difference.
There's no difference at all.
In other words, you achieve the vibrational frequency so that who you really are and what you really want can flow seamlessly with no resistance into your experience.
So then what I've been struggling with then is why are we here at an Abraham workshop and not just Esther Hicks in alignment?
Because it is of value to lay new pipes.
Okay.
In other words, from the very beginning of the conversation through Esther with Jerry, there was a finding of new vocabulary in order to help you to discover new points of view, because it was way more trouble for you to all be born autistic.
Yeah.
Where you could every day forget everything that you knew.
Okay.
Because you don't forget everything that you know. You keep knowing it and believing it and practicing it and making it your point of attraction. So the evidence keeps filling it around.
Yeah.
And so it was necessary to find another way of looking at it, which meant it was important to introduce you to that other part of you.
Okay.
And so before you can even understand what your guidance is, you have to know that there are two vibrational aspects. So we spend a while helping you to identify that there's you and there's your inner being.
Yeah.
And now we're spending time helping you to understand that they can be one and the same.
Okay.
In other words, what aspect of you are we looking at any point in time? What we are wanting is to see you in your physical body in such vibrational alignment with the whole of who you are that your vibrational point of attraction is in such harmonics or resonance with who you really are and all that you've come to. There's just a smooth flow, which is what this is. It's a smooth flow of all of that. So I said to Esther the other day, she was putting her face on and combing her hair and just sort of in that good place of getting ready to come and meet with a group like you. And we said to Esther, you know, you are the manifested actualization, realization of that which is Abraham. In other words, that's what she allows herself to be. Not at all times. Jerry wanted her to make a sign and wear it, Esther, Abraham, Esther, Abraham, Esther, Abraham, because he clearly knew the difference between the two. In other words, he knew when she was tuned into that, where her reception of that was the most logical thing in the world. But more and more, Esther can feel the clarity of all that flowing to her and through her anytime she wants. She sits to receive, to write books. You all have the ability to do it. It's just a matter of tuning yourself there. Esther has just been at it longer and more deliberate about it.
And so do you keep the difference? The difference is almost that, like you say, if you were in that place of being Abraham as such all the time, then you may not as well be here. But when you're Esther, that you're really engaging in the physicality of life. And
yeah, because what you're really saying is, you see, we stay in a vibration that doesn't allow contrast. Without contrast, you don't have exposure to real life experience.
Yeah.
So Esther would not be living that which she came to live if she did not have access, and we want her to acknowledge it as joyous access to vibrations of contrast, which produce more desire, which summons more of all that we are. It all fits together so nicely. It's sort of what we were talking about earlier, about what snapshot are you wanting to take in any moment?
Yeah.
Is it the snapshot of you in your full alignment? Esther's beginning to realize, not just beginning, she's understanding it fully now that Jerry has made his transition into non-physical, that he is not just consciously aware of Esther, but participating with her all the time. And to the degree that she allows it, her impulses bring her the broader experience that his awareness of her now affords. You see. So that a day unfolds, just hitting some highlights. In a very few short hours yesterday, Esther was roaming around with friends, and they went to another little city not far from this city, and their attitude was just do whatever we feel like doing. Sometimes they were together, sometimes they weren't together. They were just sort of milling around. They had provided a basis of well-being for each other. They were having a very good time, everyone loving everyone, and sort of just following their whim. And Esther is finding herself at the end of a very long street, right down close to the beach, watching a circus act that was almost identical to the one that Jerry had described to her so many times. And she knows he led them there. There were hundreds of shops that Esther thought she would rather have been in. And yet there she is, sitting there watching something magical and feeling about it a way that Esther has never felt about anything like that. Of course that's what it is. Oh, wow. Then wandering into another little shop, they have some little monkeys around their house, little amber ones, and it is the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And such favorites. They have a few different ones. And Jerry was saying, I would like to find some of those in other stones, like maybe jade. So Esther wanders into a shop, and there are 3 little jade monkeys, just the right size. Wow. She knows Jerry found them. She knows that Jerry, through the path of least resistance, pointed them out. Yeah. Then they find themselves at dinner at a place far from here, far from anywhere, really. And they didn't really know where they were going. They were all trying to find their way there. Then they were stopped, sort of trying to figure it out. And there's a car right there. And they rolled the window down, and he rolled his window down, and they said, do you know where such and such a place is? And he said, yes, it's very simple, and gave them long, detailed instructions. You go down here, and you come to a circle, and then you go round the circle, and then you go a little straight for a little while, and then you pass this, and then you pass this, and you come to a street. And so Esther is writing it all down, thinking, sure. But then when they got out into the real world, nothing that she had written looked like anything that they were seeing. It was nighttime, and then all of a sudden, they look over, and there's that same car, and he's rolled his window down, and he said, I will show you where you turn. And Esther said, I'll bet he takes us the whole way. And he did. He came to the place where they were to turn, and then he said, follow me, and led them right to the place. Wow. Right to the place. Well, isn't it nice that there is always someone to take you where you want to be? And some might say, well, of course, this is just a nice person and it's not so unusual. It's not unusual when things are always working out for you and you know it. Yeah. And so now they're in this restaurant and they're having really a wonderful meal. And then some mariachis came to their table. They were beautiful men, sort of bored with what they were doing at first, it seemed. And then they began to play. And as they began to play, Esther began to feel herself, so did the others, but Esther especially, coming alive in a way that she had not felt in a while. The music was magnificent. The musicians were spectacular. Each one of them as talented as the other, each one of them deserving a spotlight unto his own that the whole world could see. And there they were, surrounding them. Esther said it's like being in a movie. She couldn't believe that this performance was happening just for them, just at that table. And then the trumpet player began to play trumpet like Esther had never heard. And then he did something that Esther has heard Jerry explain to her hundreds of times. Jerry was so thrilled with this experience. He knew somebody who could do it. And he described it to Esther endlessly, but they never saw anyone do it. And this man is doing it. Yeah. He is drawing air in part of his mouth and blowing it out the other part of his mouth so that he is able to sustain his trumpet note endlessly, 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 seemingly eternally. Well, how does something like that happen? Yeah. It happens because which snapshot are we taking? Which aspect of Esther? Is Esther Abraham? Is Esther now Jerry? Are Esther's friends now Jerry? Who gets to decide where non-physical begins and where physical ends? When you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, all that is non-physical is flowing to you and through you for the immediate satisfaction of anything that is important to you. And through the path of least resistance, the things that matter most are what are culminating right here and now. Mm-hmm. It's time for you to accept it and get used to it, because you are far more than what you think you are, you see. Yeah.
And the second part of my question leads on from that. So I've started
and Esther hired them for you. They're coming on your final night. Esther said to her friends, let's keep this a secret. We will surprise them.
Oh.
Or we can talk about it and build the momentum of it. Why keep good things a secret? Yes?
So, thank you for that. So yeah, my life is going towards having these amazing experiences. So I teach meditation and things and positive thinking, and I'm having these amazing moments where it's just flowing through me and I know the answers to everything. I don't have to prepare the classes anymore. I really feel that that's alignment and fabulous. And then I've started to have experiences where, for instance, I was teaching one day and then I had a sense that I was kind of up here, not a visual thing, but just a feeling, and I was kind of saying to myself, well, you've already said that, and you're repeating yourself now. And then I suddenly thought, well, if I'm up here, who's that teaching? And then people started to say, I can see a little man standing behind you when you teach, or they could see spirit heads coming out of my head, which really freaked me out.
Yeah, you don't want to be weird.
And then also, I've had experiences in crucial moments of my life where I have, again, almost been witness to myself. For instance, when I found myself leaving my husband, it wasn't planned, it wasn't thought about consciously, and I'm thinking, when I'm telling him, you know, I'm leaving, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Where's this coming from? But it's like I was surprised. It was like my body was being taken over. It was exactly the right thing for me. But obviously, I think if I wasn't doing it consciously, my higher self guide or someone had decided, right, this is time, and if you're not doing it, I'm going to do it. So what's that about? Am I just mad?
Well, what you're describing is tuning into the higher frequency on a regular enough basis that it is flowing easily, but not necessarily always being up to that frequency. Okay. In other words, Esther remembers that in the beginning, as she would sort of cling to the podium, because there was a sort of swooning sensation as her energy adjusted upward, it's something that's a little bit like that. In other words, we don't for a moment want you to feel that you are being possessed by something, or that you are a puppet and that someone else is pulling the strings. Yeah. That's why we're talking about the different snapshots that you're taking, because you were source energy before you came into this physical body, and a part of you is flowing here as this personality. But the real objective is to flow here as this personality in order to define the new that is wanted, while you are maintaining a reasonable connection to that whole, so that the whole of you is being allowed. Here's a good way of explaining it. Again, another analogy from Esther, but she discovered that when she is really in sync with who she is, that her awareness of Jerry is not only more vivid and more often, but more delicious when it happens. And she said things to him. She writes with him nearly every day, and she said to him one day, I think about you all the time. And he said, how do you know it's you thinking about me and not me thinking about you? Oh, yeah. So that got her attention. That felt really good to her. Yeah. And then one day, she had a very strong awareness that he was flowing with her. And in the middle of that, she chose a practiced vibration of missing him. Okay. And as she chose that vibration, it was, by best description, odd, but such an important, meaningful moment for her, because she realized somehow that his very presence was the reason for her discomfort. Now, stay with us just a little bit. In other words, she realized that his presence, his focus is always there. Yeah. And she is choosing the disc from which she approaches it. Okay. So that if he weren't there, she couldn't feel the sadness of disallowing it. That's the best way of saying it. Okay. She couldn't feel the joy of allowing it, but she also couldn't feel the sadness of disallowing it, which made her feel satisfaction in the sadness, because it also means he's there. Right. You see what we're getting at? Mm. So that's the way we want you to feel about all of your emotions. When you have negative emotion, we want you to know that what it means is what you've asked for is there. You've summoned it into the filter. The vortex has gathered all the cooperative components. The parts that you don't want have been spit out. And now it's being given. It's being given. It's being given. And the reason you feel bad is because your pipes are clogged. Not because it's not being given.
Yeah.
You see.